Buenos dias, bom dia, comunidade. Good morning, everybody. This is the last webinar, our weekly webinars, the way that we have them. Since the situation has already changed so much already, since we have already 3 months of experiences, we will make this of a less regular basis. We welcome everyone to being here. Thank you so much for our dear panelists that have been with us for literally over 3 months. We started on March 27th, kicking off with the webinars, daily webinars, and then every Tuesday since we've been having these reflections about what are the things that we needed to know about from health, economy, businesses, media, the industry. What do we need to know so that we could take better decisions? Today is a great day, also because I am personally packing my suitcases to go to Mexico and take my mother out of the hospital from intensive care after 85 days of being in the hospital. So I see a new beginning also at the personal level, where we're starting to see a new reality, where we're adapting to COVID, where we're adapting to recovery and to returning to reality. So the way that I see this is an opportunity for all of us to reflect on the last 3 months. What have we learned? What can we change moving forward? And what are the recommendations that we need to absorb so that we can make the next 3 months even better, and a better reality, a better recovery for all of us? I'm gonna start today with, as always, welcoming Dr. David Nabarro from the World Health Organization that has sent a video message being the special advisor for COVID-19. Dr. David Nabarro.
Hello, I'm so glad to connect with you again today for this really important discussion with all of you through the Hispanic Star. I want to just focus on one thing right now, and that is how we're all learning to live with the new virus and with this disease called COVID. And it's going to become part of our reality, one of the struggles we have to cope with, one of the challenges we have to face. But it's one that we'll do together as part of the human family. So I've got 5 words beginning with P that I want to use as the backbone of my conversation today. Firstly, about people. Essentially, this virus moves between people simply based on how we behave with each other. When we're coughing and sick, then we can transmit it to someone else. And so getting on top of this virus, it's something that we all have to do together. And we have to do it in a way that reflects our understanding of how the virus is transmitted. So let's keep focusing on how it's all about people. But I want to use another word beginning with P that's something we have to take into account: presence. This virus is present really all the time, everywhere. We've got to behave as though it is everywhere, and that will enable us to get on top of it. If we recognize that it's a constant threat, it's always present, then that enables us also to be realizing that success in terms of life depends on us being able to defend ourselves and to defend others against being infected with the virus. I want to talk about place. The virus is spread in places where we live, in places where we work, in places where we meet, in places where we have fun. It's spread at wedding parties, it's spread at church services. It's spread in the places where we live when we're living close together. It's spread in our work environments. So really have to focus on place. We have to think about the conditions under which we work. And that will enable us to actually get on top of it. The virus is actually helped if we live in conditions associated with poverty. We can't help the fact that many of us are poor. We can't help the fact that we have to try to make do with limited cash, with limited resources. But let's remember that poverty does make us more at risk of this virus. And let's also remember that it is our job to try to make sure that those who are poor are able to get the best opportunities in life. And then lastly, the spread of this virus is reduced through what I call public health. That is health services in our community. Health services of the kind when we know who's looking after our health in our block, in our neighborhood. Health services that care for us because they're designed to be the public's health. So people, presence, place, poverty, and public health. And with that, maybe the last time I talked to you, I just want to say how much pleasure I've had connecting with you. And if ever I can be any help to any one of you or to all of you, don't hesitate to be in touch. Thank you. Thank you so much. Best wishes to all.
Thank you, Dr. David Nabarro. I am sure that Christy Tanner noticed the pin that Dr. David Nabarro was wearing, the Sustainable Development Goals, that's also based on the 5 Ps. He likes the Ps, the people, planet, peace, prosperity, and platforms and partnerships. So in this time, I would like to bring my 3 Rs: reflection, reinvention, and recommendation. So Christy, it's been literally 3 months or, or more, 100 days of more. And I would love to hear, what do you think are the reflections? Again, thinking that this is the last webinar as such that we have on the weekly updates, because the need also has changed so much. What are the reflections, the goods, the bads? What have we learned? How can we reinvent ourselves moving forward? Now we have a huge chance with Black Lives Matter, social justice, all of that. And what recommendations would you, Christy, in the position that you have as Vice President, Executive Vice President and General Manager of CBS News Digital, what recommendations would you give to the Hispanic community?
Well, first things first, we have learned so much, not only about what we don't know about the virus and the course that it will take over time, but we've also learned so much about what we can do when faced with adversity. For my team in particular, it's everybody working from home to produce 24/7 live news. But also, as the George Floyd's death sparked a global movement, we are seeing rapid and meaningful change on some levels, things that are on the surface. So taking down statues that are widely considered offensive. These are things that people thought would never happen, and that some people have been fighting for years to take place. One of the most interesting things I saw in the last week is that the SEC told the state of Mississippi that unless they change their state flag, which incorporates the Confederate flag, they will not be holding SEC events in the state. That's pretty incredible change. Having covered actually the South for myself for almost 30 years, these fights over the Confederate flag in the state flags have been going on for decades. So it's one of my reflections is just, wow, I would never have thought this much would change overnight. But we don't know where the virus is going. We need to take it day by day. We really cannot make long-term projections because so little is known. And as it relates to the aftermath of the Floyd protests, which do so much tie in with Latinx and Black community issues in terms of the disproportionate effect on those communities, economically and health-wise, we really need to rethink our approach in the United States, certainly, to how, with the resources that we provide for these communities, and where the budgets of our tax dollars are spent. And I think that from my perspective, is the ongoing conversation that needs to happen, and what I personally hope will come out of this.
That's, yeah, thank you so much. Christy, a year ago, you and I, as on the day, we were in France, in Cannes, and the advertisement festival, looking at how, you know, like what we thought it was going to be a year of purpose, and so much on the creative industry was all about sustainability and bringing people to, again, the sustainable development goals. And I think, and we've been saying that for some time, you and I were discussing that diversity, inclusion, representation, social justice, just like equal chance, was going to be at the center of that discussion. And as a fact, on Thursday, we have, and very proudly, we have the Hispanic, a number of Hispanic leaders are going to be one of the 3 main keynotes on the Cannes Advertisement Festival, because Hispanic creativity is bringing diversity and inclusion to the Cannes Advertisement Festival globally. So when you were talking about how the George Floyd example triggered a global movement, we're seeing how Hispanics and the example that we're bringing can actually be a model or an inspiration for other communities to come out of the shadows. We absolutely think that inclusion will be something to pay attention, really pay attention. And if you don't believe it, just like look around and see how people are not going to take it anymore, to be just like disregarded as not part of the human family. Do you have any final thought on that?
Well, I mean, certainly I would say the media and advertising community have a lot of work to do. The representation is not even close to what it should be for Black and brown people in particular, but gender diversity is an issue as well. You know, that's going to take some time, and I think as much as we all want change overnight, there is a pipeline issue in both media and advertising. There are not enough people at senior enough levels to even promote them to the most senior levels that we want to get them to. But we are seeing in our messaging and our creative, which, you know, is what the Cannes Festival is all about, we are seeing some change there because it's easier to make that happen more quickly. But long term, we really have to bring more people into the pipeline and work to promote them and support their careers.
And we want to partner with CBS and with you, bringing Hispanics in front of camera, behind camera, and having, you know, you just like turn around. Jesus Mantas from IBM is a perfect example of someone to bring on camera. Mark Williams, bringing diversity of voices just for you. So Christy, thank you so much for all these literally 3 months of being with us every week. Or, you know, like in Tuesdays, and bring us this update, and cannot wait to plan more with you on how to help you in that effort of bringing more representation to media overall. Jesus Mantas, Jesus, welcome to our last weekly webinar. On this occasion, we will continue doing webinars, but not regularly. The situation has changed. And I was just mentioning before that I'm leaving to Mexico. I'm taking my mother out of the hospital, which is a great news. And I hope that is also a symbol of how we're turning around COVID overall. I just feel that it is part of the, I'm just riding the wave of what's happening, which is reopening restaurants, reopening economy, wherever you were able to make it, then it's a time to actually start recovering. So 3 R's, reflections, reinventing. How do you think that these last 100 days have been? Reinventing, what do you think we could be reinventing? What do we want the world to come back And now that everything is reopening, reinventing, and like coming out, what do you think could be reinvented? And some recommendations, final recommendations. Jesus Mantas, managing partner of IBM.
Yeah, no, I think it's been a great this has been one of the most fun times that I have every Tuesday to just join this team. I always learn something from Christy. I learn something from every panelist that you have had here, Claudia, and it's been a great forum to advance ideas and to your point, to bring diversity of different ways to look at the same things. So thank you for organizing that, and hopefully it has been very useful for everybody, as it has been for me. I've had a great time. A couple of things that I would say in terms of the reinvention. This is interesting enough. This is a census year. I don't think in our wildest dreams we could figure out that we would have such a roller coaster of census year, where at the beginning of the year, the whole point is, how do we get everybody to participate in the census? Because decisions will be made about budgets and support systems and sizing, the urban areas, to make sure that everybody's properly represented. And interesting now, one of the things that we have been doing in the middle now of COVID, as you know, is we've been doing a consumer survey, and this week is coming out the June version of that survey. And this time we focus a little bit as to how do people feel about urban life and how are they adjusting. And it's quite interesting. So 1 in 5 people, so 18,000 US adults have been polled on this. 20% of the people, which is 1 in 5, say that they have already left or they plan to live a high density urban area. So think about it, what that means. That means a significant change of pretty much, if 20% of the population actually moves, because of all the consequences that we've talked about, because people think, well, maybe this remote work could be more permanent. Maybe the advantages that you have living in a big city, because you're close to work, because you can work with everybody else. Well, to the extent that is going to be a longer period of remote working, remote collaboration, and people are coming up with this idea of like, well, maybe we can just choose where we need to be, and it can be a different place from where we are. That's 20% shift. Still yet to be done if that intent actually turns into action. But that would have profound adjustments, to your point, in terms of traffic, in terms of healthcare systems, in terms of investment in all of the local city governments. So that's going to be one of the areas that we're going to have to adjust and be very, basically keep the pulse, is where are people going to go? In January, we had no question. We were coming on a permanent trend of urbanization, right? So everybody was coming to the centers. And now, this is one of those that we say, well, is it going to be like they're going to come and come back, or they're going to permanently go to other areas? So that's been one of the areas. The second areas is, I think, the public, despite all the rhetoric, over 60% of the individuals polled say they actually expect COVID-19 to be a long-term impact. So they no longer expect that it's going to be resolved tomorrow. And 63%, they say they will see a different pandemic to COVID-19 in their lifetimes. So they're kind of almost embracing the idea that this is just going to become part of life, and you need to adjust, and you need to basically figure out how do you do this, which basically imposes a lot more in employers, right? So I think a lot of the reflection is going to be, whether you're an employer or you're an employer, your employers are going to demand something different. 1 in 3 in this poll basically said employers must provide for childcare support. So they basically almost will expect that will become table stakes for an employer to provide childcare support because of the COVID-19. They also put a high degree of trust, significant more trust in the employers compared to the governments. Governments, whether local or federal, are at the lowest level of trust. But they really impose a lot of responsibility to the employers to make sure that they're going to ensure that everybody is healthy, that they really are going to make sure that the facilities are adequate, and that proper contact tracing is going to be available for everybody. So I think it's going to be an adjustment longer term, not shorter term. In our case, in IBM, we are, to the extent that we can, we use technology to help us with that. This week, we launched a new set of products called Watson Works that basically help companies with the facility management, the automated cleaning, the facility density management. How do you know if you have too many people in one space automatically, so you can do something about it? And then more automated contact tracing. So I'd say that's a little bit of the summary from our side. Really interesting data around the change of urban life. Interesting to see what that's going to mean. And then being a census year, maybe at the beginning of the year, we're going to have a set of data, and then at the end of the year, a very different set of data. So interesting to see, almost like puts into question whether a 10-year or a 5-year census cycle actually is appropriate on a time where everything can change in 3 months.
It's fascinating. I would love to hear also from Christy, just like a reaction on on how do you, is this agenda something that is going to, like that you're seeing in the new cycle, is the media a little bit more like simpatico to the new pressures that companies have to deal with, and all these changes and doing businesses overall? And is the census important, not important, or is it just like a political, like a political tool? And by the way, Jesus, Jillian said sent her excuses for everybody, but like she would actually be here. She's interviewing Justin Trudeau as we speak, so she had to bail out. But she said thank you for everybody, and she wants to talk to you about technology. But anyways, Christy.
Yeah, so in answer to the question about whether we're more sensitive to the narrative, I think I can really only speak for our media organization, CBS News, but I will say that, it hits us close to home. We understand the challenges that businesses are facing because we are facing them ourselves. So getting one anchor back into the building to sit on a set, getting people back into our actual physical control rooms requires us to do all the same things. So our reporters are, in fact, probably more familiar with the protocols than many of the people that they're covering still, because in order to go out into the field to cover a story, whether that's a protest taking place outside, an interview in somebody's home or office, or even on their front porch with distancing, we have instituted some extensive protocols that people have to follow in order to receive approval, just to basically do their jobs. So I think that will make the reporting stronger.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just go into policy, because I want to tie this up. And again, Mark, thank you so much for Ferox strategies from being from the very beginning on bringing the perspective of policy, what's happening in Washington, like how do we get alert about things that we might need to coordinate and lobby for or not, or what's good news, what's not, how do we take advantage of, like of understanding policy. So first of all, thank you so much for being here. And because I see a lot of chat around the areas, what we're not going to do is the daily webinars or the weekly webinars. What we will do institutionally will be networking opportunities where we're going to bring together people every Friday that want to get to know other Hispanic leaders. And I open that invitation, of course, for Christy, Jesus, Mark, Leroy, Ramiro, for all of you to join. We will open up that opportunity because I think it is very, very important that part of our agenda as part of the policy is to be united and to support each other and to hire from each other and to mentor each other. And if, you know, like if someone has a story that we need to pitch to Christy, we do it together and this kind of thing. So we're going to start something new, which is more networking. Mark, tell us about, like, first of all, again, thank you. What has been the reflection overall in this a couple of 100 days? What do you think it's possible to reinvent based on what you see in Washington, and also, you know, like also the political story? I think that it would be fantastic to hear from you on what's happening there, and any recommendations to close.
Well, thank you, Claudia. I appreciate it. Congrats again on getting your mom out of the hospital. That's great news. You know, when you reflect about the past 3-4 months, and it's funny, you should talk about, you know, how we're going to continue to have these conversations. I think about how interconnected we all are. And I think that demonstrated this to me the most, right? I never would have thought that a health or a pandemic that started in China would have washed up on the shores of the United States, right? So I thought in my head, you know, while I agree that we're all interconnected economically, I didn't think that health-wise we really were. And so that has really brought it to the forefront, right? Like, we need to all understand that as, you know, just citizens of the world, we're all interconnected here. But it's also reinforced to me that anything can be turned political. And I think we've seen that over the course of this pandemic, right? We've seen sides staked out for one reason or another, whether we think that's right or not. We've seen it both here in the United States politically, and we've seen it geopolitically as well. We've seen, you know, countries going after each other, pointing the fingers at each other. And, you know, whether that's right or wrong, I think that's reinforced that there is anything can be, if there's political motivation behind it, if we used as a political mechanism. So I think that's, you know, as we move forward, I would like to see some of the air taken out of our politics, right? I think we need that here in the United States. I think we need that around the world. I think we need to cut each other some slack. Whether we agree or disagree, we need to get back to civil discourse here in the United States and around the world. You know, I think that the temperature here in the United States is really, really high, and there needs to be, you know, obviously some huge changes need to take place, but you're seeing even over the course of this police reform that I think I saw a poll the other day that 90% of Americans agree on. Today in the United States Senate, they're not going to be able to agree on anything. The Senate is going to bring up their bill, and it looks like that's going to be voted down. Who knows what the path forward is with something that, like I said, 90% of the country agrees on. So we've got to figure out a way to find some compromise. Unfortunately, I think we're seeing the sides go out even further. So as we move forward, I'd like to see us be able to find some middle ground, right? We've got to be able to have those conversations with each other. We've got to be able to not be at each other's throats every second of every day. Because the fact of the matter is we all are interconnected, right? Whether it be economically, whether it be in our communities, whether it be health-wise, as we've seen. So I'd like to see the temperature taken down. I'd like to see us have some more civil discourse. And look, that's got to come from the President of the United States, but that's also got to come from the Speaker of the House, right? Like, our leaders need to be able to have those discussions. I can have discussions with my colleagues that are of a different ideology, right? Of a different political ideology, without us going at each other's throats. Why can't they? And I will say this, I think a big way for us to get at that is to have more diversity in our leadership. It's something that, you know, I have been trying to do, at least on the Republican side of the aisle. Because when you look at this Black Lives Matter movement and you see what's happening in the Senate, there are only 3 African-American senators in a 100-person United States Senate. Two Democrats, 1 Republican. That's it. how can African Americans have a voice in a governing body when there are only 3? So I think as we move forward, what we should try to do as a whole and as this panel is provide and encourage more diversity in our leadership.
Thank you so much, Mark. That's very profound. Mark, how many Hispanics are in the Senate? You said there are 3 African Americans.
Cortez Masto, and is it Marco Rubio? Am I missing anyone, guys?
No? Okay.
Ted Cruz.
Oh, my Texan Ted Cruz. So we're looking at 2 or 3, right? We're looking at 3 people. So we've got to do a better job recruiting minority candidates on either side of the aisle, right? Like no one party has the right to say they are the party of Hispanics, they are the party of African Americans, right?
Yeah.
We need to see it on both sides of the aisle.
So your recommendation would be just get involved, right? Like as Hispanics, you have to start getting involved and run for anything or.
Right, correct. And for the political parties to encourage it. Like there's got to be change within the political parties to encourage diversity in their candidates.
And Mark, before I let you go, I mean, like, do you really think that now that has been so clear that there's anger about racial discrimination and racism and so on, do we have an opening? Do we have an opportunity out there as Hispanics to do things differently in Washington? Should we be doing, like, as non-inside the belt, should we raising our voice? Should we be doing something? Is there an opening for us?
Yes, there should be, but unfortunately, I think you see people say that change should happen, right? Time and time again, and then it never does. Like my hope is that this time it's for real. Right.
Okay, so Leroy, Cavazos, before closing and just like giving final remarks again, I would love to hear from who's in relation to the Hispanic, the small businesses. Leroy, the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has done a heroic job over the last 3.5 months, 4 months, literally bringing Jovita and the small business administrator, bringing money, doing technical assistance for small businesses to get PPPs and projects and so on. Tell us about your reflections. What have you seen? What have we learned? What do we still need to learn? What recommendations would you give as we close, as we close this, I hope you got that this is the last week that we're doing these weekly webinars. Yeah.
Well, Claudia, thank you so much. First of all, on behalf of Ramiro and Carmen Castillo, our chairwoman of the board, the USHCC, under the leadership of our board of directors, started on this journey. We're on week 17, and a lot has happened in America in 17 weeks. But we still, and I couldn't agree with Mark more, that we still have an economic and social responsibility in this country to move and disrupt current power structures in our democracy if we are going to make way and recover the American economy after COVID. And I couldn't agree with Mark more that we need more people that look like us at the decision-making tables of America, not only in government, but in corporate and Fortune 500 companies and in boardrooms across this country. Because until that happens, that is the only way how we are going to reach full equality and equity in this country. I mean, just yesterday, you continue to see power structures in this country trying to suppress the entrance of immigrants who fuel and have founded the American economy, who bring their businesses here, who bring their money here, who invest here. And how can us as Americans not want that? How can we not want the very people who founded our country to be here and to operate their businesses in our country? The USHCC is a firm believer that immigrants have a rightful place in America, that they contribute to the American economy tenfold. I mean, right now, you know, 5 out of every 10 businesses that are started in this country are started by an immigrant or the son or the daughter of an immigrant. And so we have to, you know, as we've gone through this journey of COVID, the USHCC has been able to make very good strides in helping pass legislation that will be favorable for the Hispanic business community and the 4.7 million Hispanic businesses that we represent. But this is only the beginning, Claudia. This is only the beginning of what's to come. There's a lot more work to be done. And if we are going as a community to come out ahead after COVID, we need more federal contracts. We need more elected officials that look like us. We need to be able to not deprive people from Latin America to come to this country and invest their money and raise their families. We need to not be suppressing students from around the globe who want to come study in America. We cannot suppress these groups because these groups are part of our American tapestry. They make up who we are as a country, and they ensure our economic vibrancy. So we as an organization are going to continue to legislate to that end. We're going to continue to advocate to that end, and we're going to continue to find common ground in order to expand those power structures that right now are depriving our community in America.
Right. Thank you so much, Leroy. And yes, just to note, we have the Supreme Court passing DACA and Dreamers, but at the same time, President Trump banning foreign visas that probably affect companies like IBM tremendously when you're trying to, you know, like manage talent for keeping your business running. So pretty hard on the same time frame on that front. Thank you so much, Leroy, and thank Ramiro Cavazos for all of this. One of the reflections, and I want to close here, one of the reflections that I had over the last 3.5 months is that visionary companies stepped up, and you could actually start seeing, como decimos en español, sacando el cobre. You could see who cares. You could see who is with us. And I think that that's where I get a lot of trust and confidence that we have allies, that we have great allies. And one of them, and I want to give you the closing words, is IBM. IBM with Jesus Mantas under your leadership. I want to tell you how much I admire you, how much I admire your vision, the control that you have, the respect that you have in your company, and having leaders like you, bringing corporations like yours to care for a community like ours makes the full difference. Please find our words, Jesus Mantas.
You're way too kind, Claudia. I don't think I deserve that. But thank you again. Thank you for organizing and putting together and connecting so many dots. As we said the first time that you and I met, many have tried and have not succeeded in the way that you have in connecting the very fragmented set of Hispanic leadership. And without connecting those dots and unifying that power, then we're very weak, because we're many, but we're fragmented. And I think it's really important to unify around a few points and then unify the action. I mean, I'm privileged to be standing in the shoulder of giants, as one would say. As I said, in a company like IBM, and then with the relationships that we built. And I'm just looking forward. There is a lot more to do. I mean, we haven't really solved the problems. We have just barely started. So this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And I'm looking forward to partnering with you and everybody in this panel and the many other Hispanic leaders that attend as attendees, and they engage with your organization to just make sure that we deliver impact. At the end of the day, we can only be happy when we deliver impact.
Yeah, and with that, thank you so very much to everyone for being here over the last literally 3.5 months, 17 weeks as Leroy was counting. I could see the pain in every one of the weeks. I just want to reinforce that that message of Jesus Mantas. Together, we're strong. Fragmented, we're not. So if there's one thing that we have probably learned is that when we get together, when we're one community, we can really make an impact and make change. But if we're not, it's going to be hard, and the opportunities are lying ahead. Let's bring together that sense of community to Hispanic Heritage Month. Let's actually galvanize our efforts so that we turn around the narratives, the stories, the inventions, the opportunities. Let's open up with baseball. Let's open up the restaurants, but doing it together. Let's use Hispanic Heritage Month, and we invite you to be part of it, to be part of what we're organizing, to be part of something. Join a Hispanic Star Hub. We have more than 50 Hispanic hubs right now. Everything that you do is for your community. So be part of something, make part of change. Together we can do it. And I think that we have demonstrated that we're pivoting the same, that we're disproportionately affected, we're disproportionately equipped to deal with adversity because we're resilient, because we're hardworking, and because we care about each other. So thank you so very much, everybody. God bless you, and see you sporadically when the occasion rises. Thank you so much, everybody.
Enjoy Mexico.
Sí, 100%.
Thanks, Claudia.
Hablando ahora en México. En fin. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Gracias, Jesús. Gracias, Leroy. Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.